You're listening to Rebel Spirituality with me, Sam Goldfinch. Here's the truth. Wisdom doesn't follow rules. So each week we're going to explore what it means to wake up your way so you can live a more peaceful, creative and inspired life no matter your circumstances. It's time to blaze your unique path to truth. Hey team, it brings me so much joy to make these mini-casts. There's just something about this that is really aligned with how I want to put things out into the world, this kind of bite-sized way and the feedback's been fantastic, so thank you so much for anyone who's emailed me and giving me any feedback or any of that kind of stuff. And we're growing. More and more people are listening to the podcast, which is just fantastic. And if you're not on there, I'd love for you to be on the mailing list for the Rebel Weekly. And each week, it's much more than just kind of a letting you know that the podcast is out. It's very often a poem or an article or something I've written. And I often share a quote that just to ponder over the weekend, things like that. So if you're interested in that, all you need to do is go to the show notes, click the link, sign yourself up. And hey, if I annoy you, you can always get rid of me. You can fire me in an instant with the unsubscribe button, right? All right, team. Without further ado, I'm going to hand me over to me. And Hey team, I'm really excited to put this one out. For so many years of my life, decisions brought so much pressure into my life, and it always really felt like that pressure was coming from what might happen in the future, and if I make the wrong decision, what would that mean? And with what I now know about how our experience is created, how I know that, now I know that we're always experiencing thought in the moment, no exceptions, things now look really, really different to me. And one thing that looks incredibly powerful to know is that it's really useful to know when not to make decisions. And that can really help us develop our own kind of art in and around decision making. Because I think for a lot of us, what we try to do is figure out the right time to make it, and we can get a bit lost in that in itself can feel like a lot of pressure. Because if we feel like it's very high stakes, if we feel like we're caught up in the fact that, if I get this wrong, then I'm not going to be able to feel good, there's going to be huge implications to this, and all those stories that we can run in our head. By its very nature, we often find ourselves moving further and further away from clarity. We often find ourselves moving further and further away from the natural source of intuition and wisdom that every one of us has at the heart of our being. So, this is worth reflecting on. So that's the first thing, really, is if there is something that we want to kind of take action on, or if there is a decision to be made, I think just noticing if we're really full up of kind of pressurized thinking, or full up of high stakes life or death energy around something. It looks like that's not necessarily the best time to make a decision. And I understand in life there are times when perhaps there is like a deadline, like there's a point in time by which we have to decide whether we're going to do something or not. And in those scenarios, what can we do other than listen to that deep wisdom that we have and make the best decision we can with the information that we have, right? But if we have the opportunity to let things settle and to just wait for our just emotional system and our perceptual systems to clear so that we're more aligned with who, the truth of our kind of our natural states with peace and clarity, then that can be incredibly powerful. And we do know this. We have phrases like, sleep on it, things will look different in the morning. And we all know that very often things do look very, very different in the morning. I have my own personal examples of this week. There's a lot of stuff going on in my life right now. There's a lot of stuff that's being created and being launched. And I'm having to think about a number of things that I wouldn't normally have to think about. And so I went to bed last night, my head was kind of spinning, and I've woken up this morning and I feel completely different. Like, it's amazing what a good night's sleep can do for us. So I think there's a huge amount of wisdom in the put it on the back burner kind of metaphor. And just to kind of dig into that a minute, because I don't think we do, putting something on the back burner, it means don't stir it. It means trusting that that this thing is going to cook in its own time, and then we're going to know when it's ready. We're going to know when there's a decision to be made. And the thing is, we're not trusting what many of us may have been trained to trust, which is the intellect. We're trusting a much deeper wisdom, the intelligence behind life that's in you, to kind of bring an insight to help you know what's what. And very often we can wake up in the morning, or if we put something down and trust that something will bring that answer to us, the way it comes to us is outside of the reference that we expected. So there might be an option that appears to us that we just had that hadn't occurred to us before. We might decide to not take action in a scenario where we felt like the only options we had were to take action, right? So it looks like there's a much, much deeper wisdom at play if we can just trust that that it is true, there really is something in you. There is an inner GPS that's always got your back, that's guiding you. Now, that's beautiful. It looks like that's always there. You know, to the degree that we feel that inner wisdom, it sort of depends how much we have going on in our mind, right? If we've got a head full of bees, we may not feel very connected to that. But when we clear, we start to see things. Things just look different to us. There is another thing that's very important to know, and that's sometimes that deep knowing in us, it might appear to be conflicting to what our intellect is telling us is a good, in air quotes, idea. The thing about the judgments and the stories that we may have around the decisions that we make is we never really know. You know, we build things up as being very high stakes because we think if we make a mistake or if we fail at something, then it's going to have huge repercussions in our life. The biggest one being that we're not going to be okay, that we're not going to be able to deal with the feelings that might come if that were to happen. But we absolutely can deal with those feelings. We've been built to be able to process them and be with them, and many of us are on a journey of seeing the truth of that. But it's really worth knowing, because often we'll make a decision that may have very much come from our deep wisdom. It may not be the thing that many people in our life wanted. It may come as a surprise to us as well. And it's possible to make stories up around that of success or failure or mistakes. But the truth is that those things are, there's a bigger thing going on. Very often in our life, if you look back on your life, if you zoom out, I'm sure that you will discover that very often the mistakes and the failures are the times where you went down a route in your life that you didn't expect and incredible things came from it. So, was it really a mistake? Was it really a failure? What happens the moment when something doesn't go the way that we planned it, or if we make a decision that we didn't expect ourselves to make, but suddenly amazing things come from that? It's very hard to see these things in the time at the very time. And life is often, it's got a really deep wisdom in it. It's often giving us what we need, and that might not be what we want at the conscious level. And so I think holding things very, very lightly is very important. And in doing so, it naturally releases some of that pressure from the pressure valve of oh God, like what happens if this happens and that happens, and we can get lost in the kind of future tripping that's so common when we're trying to make decisions. So I would say that when it comes to making decisions, the art of it is about tuning into your wisdom. It's about seeing that you actually need a lot less going on in your mind. You don't need more. There's something that has your back, even if you've never known it. It's always had your back. It's a deep wisdom. And just sometimes going for a walk, being in nature, putting something aside for a little while, and just waiting for those insights and that clarity to come. As much as that might be something that's not normal for you, it doesn't mean that it isn't an amazing gateway to a new way of living and a real art for making decisions. So test it out and let me know if this is something that you've seen as true in your life. It's definitely something that I've seen as true in my life. It helps me sleep better. It helps me do much because I can trust in something much, much more, with a much deeper wisdom than Sam. Much deeper wisdom. If I'm gonna make a decision, I want all of my special effects department and all of my amazing senses and faculties behind that, and I want to be tuning into much more than the words in my head. All right, team, I hope you have an amazing week. I'll see you soon.